The icy wind blows through a broken stained glass window, and the sound of its lament is a sound of loneliness. It mingles with the slow, incessant rhythm of the rain beating on the dirty windows, each drop a sigh, a tear. The light that enters is pale, almost grey, and reveals a hall of concrete and marble covered in dust. The dust dances in shafts of light, as if they were the lost souls of all who have passed through here. Central Station, once the vibrant heart of the city, is now a tomb of memories. The place in its vastness seems like a desert of echoes. The sound of hurried footsteps of old, the sound of laughter, farewells and reunions, all lost in time, leaving behind only a heavy silence and the smell of rusted metal and dust. The great clock, frozen in a time that no longer exists, is the only thing that bears witness to Elias's solitude. Elias is a thin man with calloused hands that have carried unimaginable weights and eyes that have seen too much and spoken too little. He is the station's caretaker, but he is also its prisoner. He spends his days cleaning away the sadness left behind by time, sweeping away memories, polishing away shadows. His faded uniform is his armor, his way of hiding from the world. He is a ghost of flesh, a guardian of a private cemetery. He moves between the worn wooden benches. The broom brushes the floor, producing a low, steady noise, the only sound that seems alive there. His movements are slow and methodical, a ritual of penance. Each step, each movement, is a reminder of the emptiness that fills him, a life of regrets and lost ties, echoed by a loneliness as deep as the station itself. He breathes the air of a time long gone, a time when people came and went, full of hope or despair, but never alone. His routine is his prison. It's immutable, like time to the station clock. Wake up, sweep, clean, sleep, and in between, only silence and memories. He doesn't speak to anyone. The people who see him at the station ignore him. He's just a figure in the landscape, the man who lives in the shadow of a clock that stopped in time. But inside, he's haunted by a void, a hole he dug himself. He moves between the concrete pillars, the dim light of a single bulb illuminating his path. He reaches a dark corner, shrouded in oblivion. There is an object, a leather suitcase, ancient and worn. It has no color, only the stain of time. It is an object outside of time and space, as if it had been left there on purpose. The suitcase is a spot of color in a monochromatic universe, and Elias stops. The sound of his broom stops. The silence of the station, which once felt like a breath, is now a weight. He bends down and touches the suitcase, feeling the weight of a story he doesn't know but which somehow seems his. Elias, with trembling hands, carries the suitcase to his small cubicle, the only place he allows himself to be truly alone. The hanging lamp, yellowed and dim, illuminates the leather object, revealing the cracks of time, the scratches that tell stories he cannot read. The smell of mildew and mothballs fills the air, an aroma of a past life, of a world that has shattered. The bag, heavy, but not with objects, is heavy with time. Elias feels the weight of that time, a weight that adds to his own. He hesitates, his heart pounding in his chest. What was inside? The fear of encountering a pain that wasn't his, but that he felt as if it were. And curiosity, the spark that ignites the journey. The curiosity that makes him fight his own fear. He remembers seeing a similar suitcase years ago, the day the great clock stopped, the day the station died, the day his life became a prison. He unlocks the suitcase with a metallic click, a small sound amplified in the silence, the sound of a door, opening to the past. Inside there is no gold jewelry or money. There is only the universe of a family, old photos in black and white and faded colors. Time has blurred the memories but not erased them. Elias picks up the first photo, a picture of a man and a woman, young and smiling, happiness etched on their faces. The man with a sincere gaze, the woman with a breathtaking smile. The image of happiness seems so genuine it hurts, and Elias feels a pang of envy, an envy of the life he never had. He flips through the photos one by one, the man older but still smiling, the woman more mature but still with the same smile, and a child, a girl with flushed cheeks, laughing. Each photo is a fragment of happiness, a happiness Elias never had, or worse, that he let slip away. He sees himself in each of those photos, a ghost in a world he never inhabited. There's one photo in particular that stops him in his tracks. A picture of a child, a little girl. She smiles, but her eyes are serious, as if they already know too much. The image is so pure that Elias's heart sinks. He touches it with his fingertip, feeling the texture of the paper. A tear slips out, hot and salty. He wipes it away quickly, as if ashamed. The bag becomes a mirror, reflecting the life Elias never had. He turns the photo over, his fingertips marking the paper. On the back, scrawled in ballpoint pen, a name, Arthur, 1980. The date and the name are a macabre melody that haunts him. Elias remembers seeing a man with the same name, a homeless man he saw every day, sitting on a bench, his face hidden, his head bowed. Could the man in the photo be the same person? The suitcase isn't just a collection of photos, it's an anchor to a happy past, a burden its original owner couldn't carry. The question that forms in Elias's mind is what happened to that happiness. He feels the weight of the burden and the need to unravel it. The suitcase becomes a portal to a past he knows. The weight of the object is the weight of a question. What happened to that happiness? He needs to know, not just to return the suitcase, but to understand the story fate has placed in his hands. He wonders if Arthur's story might be the answer to his own loneliness. Elias closes the suitcase. The image of the family, of the girl with serious eyes, refuses to leave his mind. He tries to focus on his work, on sweeping away the dust, on cleaning what seems immutable, but the image persists. The suitcase, now a silent echo, is a weight he can't let go of. It's no longer on the table, but he feels it in his hands, on his shoulders. It's the weight of a responsibility, of a story that isn't his, but that he feels he must carry. He tries to rationalize. It's just an object, he mutters to himself. A suitcase, nothing more. But he knows it's not true. The suitcase is a portal to a past he knows. The sound of the broom, once slow and methodical, is now nervous and quick. He sweeps harder, as if trying to erase not the dust but the memory. The suitcase, the photo, the girl. He feels regret, like a bitter taste in his mouth. He refuses to give in. The past becomes a haze. Fragments of memories like faded photographs. A woman's smile, a child's gaze. The sound of laughter, the sound of crying. The suitcase is the anchor that pulls him back to this past. He sees himself in a car, driving, looking back, seeing a house becoming smaller, a family becoming a distant dot, the sound of a radio playing a song he no longer remembers, the sound of his own silence. He sits on a bench. He feels exhausted. The internal struggle is more tiring than any physical labor. He surrenders to thought. The suitcase, Arthur, the story. He needs answers, not for Arthur, but for himself. He needs to understand what was lost, not just for the suitcase's owner, but for himself. What was lost? And the question repeats in his mind, a painful mantra. The photo of Arthur and his family now sits on his desk. Beside it is a small, crumpled, almost illegible note. Elias carefully unfolds it. The handwriting is childish and shaky. "Daddy, don't be long. I love you." The sentence is a punch to the gut. The note, a small fragment of love and hope, contrasts with the sadness of the suitcase. The weight of the note is a weight of guilt, a weight of regret. Elias looks at the photo of Arthur and his family. The image of happiness is so real that he feels Arthur's pain as if it were his own. What could have happened? What turned a happy man into a ghost? He looks at the note. He wonders if Arthur's happiness was stolen, or if he himself let it slip away. He stands and picks up the suitcase. The weight of the object is now the weight of his own story. He can no longer ignore the connection. Arthur's past and his own seem intertwined. He wonders if Arthur's story might be the answer to his own loneliness. He decides he needs to know. The weight of the suitcase becomes the weight of a question. What happened to that happiness? He needs to go after Arthur, not to return the suitcase, but to understand. The cold street air hits Elias like a punch. He can't remember the last time he left the station. The smell of rusty metal and dust is replaced by the smell of wet asphalt and pollution. The suitcase, which once felt like a burden, now serves as a guide. He moves through the city, but his steps are slow, hesitant, as if he's walking on unfamiliar terrain. He's not looking for Arthur. He's looking for something he himself lost long ago. His mind is a whirlwind. He wonders how a life so full of Happiness, like Arthur's, could have turned into such profound loneliness. He wonders if happiness is just a moment, a fleeting instant, that one day turns into regret. He remembers a particular night, an argument, the harsh words, the even harsher silences, the sound of a door slamming, the sound of a car pulling away, the sound of a life he left behind, the suitcase, the photo, the girl. They are a painful reminder of his own failure. Elias spots Arthur from afar. He's sitting on a bench in the central square, the same bench as always, the same man. His face is hidden, his head lowered. He seems smaller than Elias remembered, more fragile. Elias approaches, his heart pounding. He feels the familiarity of that silence, that solitude. He sits on the bench next to Arthur, placing his suitcase between them. Silence is the only language they seem to understand. Arthur doesn't lift his head, but Elias knows he senses his presence. "Arthur," Elias murmurs, his voice trembling. The man flinches as if the voice were a blow. He shakes his head as if trying to ward off a ghost. "You know me?" Arthur murmurs without lifting his head. His voice is hoarse and weak, as if it hasn't been used in years. Elias hesitates. He holds out his suitcase. I found this at the station." Arthur lifts his head, and what Elias sees paralyzes him. His eyes are empty, but there's a trace of recognition. He looks at the suitcase, then at Elias. Their eyes meet, and for a moment, time stops. They're no longer a janitor and a homeless man. They're just two men, sharing the same loneliness. Arthur looks at the suitcase, and a trace of pain flashes through his eyes. "It's my past, not my future," he murmurs, his voice thick with anger. He turns, as if to flee. "No," Elias says, his voice firm. "It's your story. It's your life." Arthur turns. "The story? The story of how I lost everything, how the universe betrayed me." Elias opens the suitcase. He takes out the family photo. The photo of the smiling woman, the happy man, the flushed-cheeked child. "Isn't this the story of your past? Isn't this the story of your happiness?" Arthur looks at the photo, his eyes filling with tears. "Happiness is a lie," he murmurs. Elias sits on the bench next to Arthur. The suitcase between them is the only thing separating them. Elias picks up the small, crumpled note, its handwriting childish and shaky. "Daddy, don't be long. I love you." He holds it out to Arthur. Arthur's hand trembles. He takes the note, and for the first time his resistance breaks. He looks at the handwriting, and a tear runs down his cheek. He wipes it away quickly, angrily, as if ashamed. "Sophia," he whispers. The name is a painful sound, a whisper of pain. "She wrote this, the day we went to the station. I lost her." Elias says nothing. He just looks at him with compassion and understanding. He doesn't need words. He understands the pain. He understands the loneliness. He understands the regret. They are two men sitting on a bench sharing the same pain. Arthur turns to Elias. Do you know what it's like to lose someone?" Elias looks at the suitcase. He doesn't need words. He takes out the photo of his wife and son, the photo of his own family, the photo he hid in his pocket never to see again. "I know what it's like to lose. I lost them by choice. I pushed them away. I left them because I was afraid of failing, afraid of being a failure. And now I'm just a ghost, haunting an empty station." Arthur looks at the photo of Elias's family. His eyes are filled with tears. Sadness is on his face. He sees himself in Elias, and Elias sees himself in Arthur. They are mirrors of each other. One lost everything to tragedy, the other by choice. Both, however, are alone. The silence between them is thick, heavy, but now it's not a silence of loneliness. It's a silence of understanding. Arthur reaches out and touches the bag. The suitcase. "It was hers," he whispers. "Sophia, she carried it everywhere. It was the only thing that made her feel safe. I left it behind because I couldn't carry it anymore. I couldn't carry the pain. I couldn't carry the memory." The suitcase becomes a symbol, a burden that Arthur couldn't carry, but that Elias, by choice, was willing to carry. "Happiness is a lie," Arthur murmurs, his voice trembling. "No, happiness isn't a lie. Pain is what makes it real," Elias replies, his voice steady. "And pain is the only thing we have left." Arthur looks at him, and a trace of hope flashes in his eyes. You don't think happiness can be real again? Elias looks at him and smiles. It's the first smile Arthur has seen in years. I don't know, but we can try to find out together. The rain, which was once a sad melody, is now a clamor. Arthur takes the photo from Elias's hand. He holds it as if it were a fragment of a past he thought he had lost forever. The anger in his eyes gives way to sadness. He stares at the photo, each image a pang of pain. The pain becomes a memory. The anger turns to sadness. They sit in silence, the two of them, two men who have lost everything, looking to the past to find the courage to move forward. The rain, which was once a sad melody, is now a clamor. Arthur takes the photo from Elias's hand. He holds it as if it were a fragment of a past he thought he had lost forever. The anger in his eyes gives way to sadness. He stares at the photo, each image a pang of pain. The pain becomes a memory. The anger turns to sadness. They sit in silence, the two of them, two men who have lost everything, looking to the past to find the courage to move forward. Arthur then shows Elias the photos, one by one. This is my wedding photo, the happiest day of my life. His voice is a whisper, hoarse with emotion. He picks up another photo. This is Sophia. She was the light of my eyes. I loved her more than life itself. He looks at the photo, and a trace of pain flashes through his eyes. She was all I had. He closes his eyes. Memories become a movie in his mind. His wife's smile, the sound of his daughter's laughter, and then the sound of a car crashing, the sound of a silence that will never be. Broken again, the sound of the ambulance siren, the sound of his own scream. The pain becomes so real that he feels his throat close up. Tears stream down his cheeks. Elias listens to him in silence. He says nothing. He just looks at him with compassion and understanding. He doesn't need words. He understands the pain. He understands the loneliness. He understands the regret. They are two men sitting on a bench, sharing the same pain. One lost everything to tragedy, the other by choice. Both, however, are alone. Arthur turns to Elias, pain etched on his face. I lost them, he whispers. I lost them and I couldn't do anything. I tried to run from the pain, run from the memories, run from myself. He holds the suitcase in his hands as if it were a fragment of his own soul. The suitcase was hers. She carried it everywhere. It was the only thing that made her feel safe. I left it behind because I couldn't carry it anymore. I couldn't carry the pain. I couldn't carry the memory. Elias looks at the suitcase. The weight of the object is now the weight of his own story. He understands Arthur's pain, the regret, the fear. He understands what it's like to lose someone, what it's like to try to escape from yourself. He reaches out and touches the suitcase. What was yours now belongs to us. The past cannot be undone, but the future can be different. He stands. Thank you. And he leaves, leaving the suitcase and the pain, but taking with him a new hope. Elias carries his suitcase back to the station. The bag, which once felt like a burden, no longer seems so heavy. The station, which once seemed so empty, no longer seems so lonely. The light streaming through the broken stained glass windows is no longer grey but yellow and warm. The sound of the wind is no longer a lament, but a song. The suitcase becomes a symbol, the weight of a story he couldn't carry, but which now, by choice, he is willing to carry. He sits on a worn wooden bench, the same bench where he sat and cried. He opens the suitcase and takes out the photos. He looks at the family photo, the photo of the flushed-cheeked child. But this time, he doesn't feel pain. He feels peace. He feels a connection. The suitcase is no longer Arthur's story. It's the story of everyone who has ever felt alone and abandoned. It's the story of a man who lost himself and another who found him. The bag is no longer Arthur's story. It's the story of everyone who has ever felt alone and abandoned. It's the story of a man who lost his way and another who found him. It's the story of how connecting with another person, even for a moment, can bring the chance for a new future. The bag, once an anchor to the past, is now a bridge to the future. Elias looks at the child's photo. He sees hope in her eyes, the hope for a future, for a life, the hope he thought he had lost, but which he found in a forgotten suitcase. He keeps it in his pocket, the weight of the photo a constant reminder of his new journey. He stands up with a new purpose. He is no longer the lonely station janitor. He is the keeper of a story, The story of how two broken men found each other in a forgotten suitcase. He sweeps the floor, but this time he doesn't sweep away the dust, he sweeps away the past. The sound of the broom, which was once a melody of sadness, is now a melody of hope. He glances at the station clock, which had previously stood still, and a smile forms on his face. Time, which once stood still, begins to move again. Life, which once seemed to have stopped, begins to move again. The camera zooms out, revealing the vastness of the station. The clock, which had previously stood still, begins to move, slowly and silently. Life, which previously seemed to have stopped, begins to move again. And in a corner, on a wooden bench, a man smiles. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today.